He's provided global strategic technology and economic development services as CEO of Hutchison Management International. He is chair of the iCanada Alliance, chair of Waterfront Toronto's iWaterfront Advisory Council, board chair of SAVI, which is a 5-year multi-university internet and cloud computing research program led by the University of Toronto, and he is a member of the I can never pronounce this, Skolkovo, Russia's Smart City Expert Advisory Board. And Bill is enjoying his stay here on the way back home from Moscow, correct, Bill? Yep. Bill is Global Chair, Telecommunications Industry for Ernst & Young and National Managing Partner for Ernst & Young's IT Consulting and Integration Services. He was CEO and President of Consolidated Computer Inc., which is Canada's first owned computer systems manufacturer, a global firm that established new Canadian records for export of sales to Japan. He founded Telnor Holdings Limited and served for 13 years as its CEO while creating and managing a conglomerate of new consulting, software development, and computer systems companies, all with successful exit strategies. So congratulations. While living in Singapore for 5 years, he advised the Hong Kong government on their creation of the Hong Kong Cyberport Innovation Center, and he led the creation of the first American-owned technology center in Malaysia, which was the multi-center super corridor, one of the world's largest infrastructures on economic revitalization developments in the 1990s. As a social entrepreneur, Bill has been a founding director of 12 social and industrial consortia in support of Canada's economic and social evolution in the information age. That's quite an undertaking. Bill was founding vice chair of the National Advisory Board of Science and Technology, chaired by a former Prime Minister of Canada. He's actually the founding board chair of CANARI, Canada's, of course, world-renowned and, as we all know, Research and Innovation Network for Canada. And many stories that we've shared in the developments of CANARI over the years. Founding investor and director of PCARN, Canada's National Robotics and Intelligent Systems Centre of Excellence. And I know we have Karen Wilder in the audience, who we probably should talk to Bill with regard to his developments here with regard to robotics intelligence. Director of the Ontario Laser and Lightwave Research Institute, founding director and board chair of the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, Governor, Information Technology Association of Canada, and co-founder and chair of KINSA, the Kids Internet Safety Alliance, a very important role. Over the past 35 years, Mr. Hutchison has been recognized as one of the world's leaders in the evolution and application of computer and telecommunications technology. In 1983, he was described as one of Canada's Knights of the New Technology in David Thomas's book, Knights of the New Technology, the story of Canada's technology elite. In 1988, he was elected to the Hall of Fame of the Canadian Information Productivity Awards, and in 2005, he was named one of Canada's top 30 movers and shakers in ICT over the past 30 years. In 2006, he received the first Lifetime Achievement Award ever granted by the Intelligent Community Forum of New York, and in 2008, and again in 2009, Realcomm Publishing and Conferences of the USA called him one of the world's top 35 executives to watch in 2009 and 2010 in real estate technology. In further recognition of his contributions and achievements, Bill was elected Fellow of the Canadian Information Processing Society. Previously, he received their Gary Hartford Professional Achievement Award for Professionalism and Integrity. And he has received the Private Sector Leadership Award from the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance. Bill is a former graduate of electrical engineering from McGill University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Hutchison.
With all the Canary people around here, you could call me Big Bird. You know, there's a funny story about Canary. People asked, did you spend a lot of time on Canary? I said, about 3.5 years of my life. because the federal government asked me if I would chair a group to figure out, this was in 1990, what we should do to become a world leader in gigabit networking. It was nice that they knew that word back then. I don't know if they know it now. By the year 2000. And I picked 25 of my nearest and dearest friends to figure out what we should do. But this was a federal program, I was told, and so if I had needed 25, I'd better have 25 from every province. So I had a steering committee of 250 people, and we argued and debated for 2.5 years. And of course the idea of Canary, it was building on CA-NET, which was like the national highway connecting all the regional research networks, kind of one in each province, so across Canada. Anyway, Bell and the others didn't think this was a great idea because the government was funding it and it was cutting them out of some revenues. And they kept telling the Ottawa Citizen that this was a bad idea. And when we were working on the creation of Canary, it had about 4 nicknames, different people's names as we went along. And finally we said, geez, we're about to get going, the government wants to get in, private sector, going to put their money in. We better have a name. And a fellow from Montreal who was on the committee came up with it. He said, I got it. Canadian Network for the Advancement of Research, Industry and Education. Canary, Canary en Français. Beautiful. So we all went back to our own work the next day. I went to my office in Toronto and somebody called me from Ottawa. He said, you're not going to believe it. There's a half-page story in the Ottawa Citizen and the headline is, "This bird will never fly." And I still have the article. So it's still flying, and just great. Our MC is a former chair of Canary, so we're surrounded by birds, and it's done well. And it's just one of many, many examples of what we've been doing in Canada over the years. This title is not on the program, but I thought an overall title for my speech tonight could be "The World in Transition." And I can then take it to Canada in Transition and Nova Scotia in Transition. I do like to mention this fact that I found out, and I knew, but I certainly learned a lot more yesterday, that one of my ancestors was here preaching at St. Paul's in 1785. And I like to tell people I say that just because people might think otherwise. I'm just a carpetbagger from Toronto. But our ancestors were here probably ahead of most of your ancestors. So I have some claim here, and nice that the Premier is recruiting me to move back with this weather. I think I should. I really enjoyed the afternoon with the members of the summit. Digital Nova Scotia Summit meeting, and we had some great discussions and tremendous energy, and a lot of great success stories were being talked about. And so I think that's a very important initiative, and I just wish everybody all the best of luck creating these consortia. We were just chatting. It takes a lot of time and effort, and you get to a moment in them. I'll not use the phrase I used at dinner. I'll call it the "oh heck" moment, where you're starting these things. And the good news is, gee, we've got momentum. And the bad news is we've got momentum and we don't have any staff or any money yet, and looks like I'm running it. So that always happens to the chair initially, but ultimately you get over that, and the good news is you have momentum. So I really enjoyed that. So what is it that's driving all these discussions, and why are we talking about it, and what's all about intelligent communities and smart cities? And what are these drivers and that sort of thing? We all that are in the high-tech industry know about it, but the interesting thing is when you're in the middle of something, you don't quite realize the extent of the changes. And I think everybody's familiar with Moore's Law, pulled together by Gordon Moore, who at the time was the CEO of Intel, who noted that semiconductor technology, solid-state technology, doubles in performance every 18 months for the same price. So I sort of went back to when I started in the industry in 1960 and thought, well, let's see what that gets me to when I start doubling something every 18 months. The number is 50 billion. So what that really means is that the technology, the fundamental semiconductor technology, has improved by 50 billion times since I got in the industry and was burning my fingers on vacuum tubes. But imagine, like nothing in history has ever done that before over that period of time. But the scary thing, if you like, or the opportunity part of it, so, you know, picture an exponential curve. I thought I could use that, but it goes the wrong way. So think of that as turned around and we'll make it go exponential. Well, this curve is still going exponential. And if you take that over the next 30 years, you're up into the multi-trillions of numbers. And what it means is, you know, so it's trillions, that's nice. What it means is that the impact on the technologies, on robots, just say robots, is going to be enormous. They will have emotion. They will understand what you tell them. They'll be able to move. And they will continue to knock people out of the manufacturing workplace, and it will all continue to be very, very disruptive. And one writer I was reading talks about it as, you know, it's like the release of the serfs moving out of the feudal era. Tremendous change. And so that's why it starts to be important. One of the challenges that we in Canada have broadly, and it reflects in our governments, is that we tend to do something, even Canary. Well, that's good, we did that. Let's go and do something else. Well, if you're on this curve, you better not stop. And even Canary has a challenge, and a lot of our government programs, well, we'll fund them for 5 years and then we'll figure it out. Well, that's nice. You get to 4.5 years and the staff gets a little nervous and you lose some staff, and finally that maybe the government comes along and keeps it going, or maybe they don't, like pre-CARN. So we've got to find a way to have everybody understand that this is a big curve. And I can't draw this one, but if you had it on a graph and you have a curve going like that, and you said, okay, I'm a little behind, so how do I catch up? Well, I've got some space here. That's the amount of space. If you're farther up the curve and you're a few years behind, you got a lot of catching up to do and a lot of investment. So you really can't even afford to get behind because it's a big issue. And so what happens and why are we now into this intelligent community, smart city, and why does it matter? Well, one of the reasons that it matters is that if we're not in the game, you can't get behind because you'll never catch up. And in the same way that if the railway bypassed your town in the old days, well, that was it. You know, see you around. It's a nice artistic community, but it perhaps wasn't the kind of community you thought you had. So that's why it's really important to be into the smart city, intelligent community game. So let me just describe a little bit about two organizations that tie in with all of this. And the first one is the Intelligent Community Forum, and a lot of people know about it, and I've been very involved with it right from the beginning. This is a think tank based in New York. The chairman is a Canadian, John Young from Toronto, along with 2 Americans, and they created it and started picking the Intelligent Community of the Year 12 years ago. The interesting thing is that without exception, the winning community and most of the finalists, they pick the final 7 each year and then they narrow down to the final one. But without exception, the winners have had faster rates of economic growth, faster rates of employment growth, higher levels of incoming investment, better broadband, and all those kinds of numbers that are important for the future prosperity of our citizens. And it's because they're doing the things to become the Intelligent Community of the Year that they're getting that. It's not just an employment development program or that sort of thing. These end up being the characteristics of those communities. So move over to Canada for a moment. You've probably all read the statistics, and they get a bit gloomy because we hear them every year. Our innovation index is going down. Our rates of economic development, our productivity is going down. Our broadband index, depending on what report you're reading, sits at about 22nd out of 30. If it's an international report, if it's a Canadian report, we're right up at the top. Funny about that. So, you know, I think a lot of us have been to Ottawa and been in a lot of meetings. We carry placards. We got to innovate more. Let's innovate. And then we all go back to work and nothing changes. So, how do we change this? Well, we decided a couple of years ago, Barry Gander and I, that, you know, if you look at the characteristics of the winning intelligent communities, if we had enough of those in Canada, rising tide raises all ships, and Canada would be an intelligent nation, because all of a sudden we'd turn these indices that are going down, they'd flip around because we had enough activity in the country. And that was the reason we created iCanada.